everyone. Welcome to Bridgerton Fancast. We're a podcast created by two fans to discuss the show Bridgerton.
But in today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little different. This is a special book club podcast where we will host a discussion on the book that season 1 was based on, The Duke and I. But before we begin, let's remind you who we are. I'm Michelle. I live in the States, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Musings.
And my name is Rita. I live in England, and I'm back on Instagram and Twitter at Annoying Rita for anybody who wants to follow my journey with Wordle. Every day's a struggle.
Wordle brought you back to the interwebs.
Let's hope it's worth it. Okay, so it's been a while since we last discussed our relationship with the series. So just to give you all a little refresher, I'm the book reader of the two of us. I first read the books back in the early 2000s. Remember that time? It was unfortunate for my eyebrows and my fashion sense. I was just a tween with a library card and an inappropriate obsession with romance novels. I was too young to read. Michelle here is the Bridgerton noob who never read the books and got roped into this podcast by me. She's been tasked with staying #spoiler-free, and this is her first time ever reading the series. Unlike me, the old veteran, I've read it arguably too much. So between us, I feel like we will have pretty much every reading of this book covered. #facts. We are going to get it done. Yes.
So, a little bit of history. The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, who I believe is from the Pacific Northwest, but I could be wrong about that.
She lives in Seattle.
Ooh.
You could bump into her at any time.
Ooh. Well, that sounds like fun.
Yes. Don't go knock on her door.
No, I promise. No, I won't do that. It was first published by Avon Books January 5th, 2000. So right after Y2K, when everybody was running around stocking up on water and emergency supplies because the world was going to come to an end.
My family did not do that, by the way. We were all, like, getting drunk in Portugal. I was 10. So I was like, this seems fine. Let's just ignore the impending doom.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was stupid ridiculous there. Anyway, this was not her first book. She had been writing romance novels since 1995. And she would go on to have over 47 novels as of this podcast, because yes, she's still writing.
She's only 50. She's got another 50 years of writing in her.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, my Lord. And by Julia Quinn's own admission, this book was only a modest success on publication. She had a deal for a trilogy, but it wasn't until the next novel, The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is what season 2 is based on. Once it was released, the Bridgerton hype train really got rolling. She has also admitted that she struggled with naming the book and fondly recalls a time when she wanted to call it Daphne's Bad Hair Day, which I think we can all agree is the best name for a book ever.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know how it would have done commercially with the name.
No.
But
isn't it better?
Better than The Duke and I, But, I get it. I get it.
I love a pun, so I'm always here for this. So I started to do like a really long recap of the book, but like partway through the third chapter, it was half a page long, and I think I was like, this is pointless. We should be familiar with the intricacies of the plot by now. How about we just start off discussing the book itself, like irrespective of the adaptation? I mean, I have to just ask you the most important question, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a romance novel reader, and how familiar are you with the tropes?
I would have to say, abso-frickin-lutely.
Yay!
I started reading romance novels. I think I was maybe about 12, 13 years old.
It's a good age for
yeah, and I would
just
get
hit
those
puberty.
I would get those, really thin little romance novels. I can't remember the publisher's name, but they were just pulp romance novels where you were in the formula, like they hate each other, something happens, they love each other, there's another thing that happens, they get angry, and then they get back together. So,
and it's like 100 pages long, and you're like, that was a good ride.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, is this how romance works? No, it's not.
No.
It's not. It's been a part of romance novel, and romantic novels have been a part of my reading for many, 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 many years.
I asked the question because I have read some reviews from people who were like, don't read romance novels, and were like, oh my god, this book is so formulaic and predictable. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the whole point, babes.
Yeah. It's like, this is what a romance novel is about. Deal with it.
You go in knowing exactly what's going to happen and who's going to be with who, and that's the joy of it.
Yes. Sure, there are people that take that formula and really build upon it and create, a really amazing storyline. But what I just shared, that is the basic skeleton of, like Pride and Prejudice, when you think about it.
Though I have argued hugely with people that is not a romance novel. Like,
no, it is not.
It definitely set the archetype for romance novels, and without Jane Austen, romance novels would not exist. But I'm constantly like, that's not a romance novel, people. You can't write a romance novel before the genre exists. Like, calm down. And also, when I was... Breguet Jean Page gave some very unfortunate quotes about romance novels where he referenced Mr. Darcy, and I was like, nope, he's not a romance novel hero. So, sorry, guys.
No. He is a romantic novel hero, which is, how I distinguish between the two.
Yeah. One is a whole genre and the other is a storyline. So
yes.
It's just
exactly.
The romance genre didn't really even exist until the 20th century. So you can't write a book before you know what the genre is, babes. And them's the rules.
Yes.
And this is the hill we will die on.
I got my sword. You ready? Any takers?
Don't come at me. I just got on Twitter. Don't ruin it already.
Yeah. Please don't. Yeah, please don't. We don't want her running away again, because that was bad.
That was sad.
Yeah, it was.
So what was it like reading this book for the first time, and did you enjoy it overall?
I did enjoy it. It was funny, obviously when she wrote the book, she was writing it as, you kind of your traditional romance novel would be, it's not, you're not going to see interracial relationships or anything like that, at least not back in those days. And so it was strange, with Simon's description being, with blue eyes and, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, chocolate brown eyes. Sexy man.
Other than the blue eyes, though, I think Breguet Jean Page fills the description of being hotter than Michelangelo's David. I think that's...
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Yes, yes, yes.
Were you still picturing the same actors, or like?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And, it was like I read the descriptions at first, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna keep.
Daphne's a blonde now.
I'm gonna keep my people in my head. Yes,
is.
and it's like, and they don't all have the same hair color, and these are the people that are going to be playing this part in my brain. So I was happily using them as my little puppets as I was as I was reading it. But I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun.
Yay! Well, I'm glad I didn't make you read something you hated.
This would have been a whole different podcast if that was the case.
So what did you think about the style of the novel? Was it what you expected? I mean, you're familiar with the genre, so probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew as soon as I got started, I was like, okay, here we go. What's the formula?
It goes down so smoothly.
It does.
I've read this book twice in the past couple of weeks because I have to read it to sort of plan out the questions, and then I read it again to like analyze the damn thing. So, and both times I was just like whipping through it. It's really easy, really short.
Yeah.
She has a writing style that is so readable, and I think people underestimate how much talent is involved in making something that readable.
Yeah.
So many shitty books have really profound writing styles, and it's just a whole ass mess. Yeah. And I think one thing I noticed rereading it is the like wild shifts in tone. It sort of goes from like comedy to melodrama, which I personally love. I grew up on telenovelas. This is my jam. But it takes a lot of skill to be able to shift so dramatically from like some light-hearted family scenes to like, let's call it rape because that happened. And then all of the trauma dumping that Simon does. It's just, she's very good at adapting to what the book needs in that moment. And I was like, I'm quietly impressed by Julia Quinn's writing style. Shout out, woman.
Yeah. And clearly it's resonated, if she has been able to continue writing and has 47 books under her belt as of today. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the books, but I know we have a ways to go before I can do that. So I'm gonna be patient.
It's not that long till you can read the second one.
Well, I know, but I know
you waited a whole last year to read The Duke and I.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So, is there anything you didn't enjoy about the novel?
I'm hard pressed to put my finger on something. It was a enjoyable romp of a read. And it's been a while since I've read a romance novel. And so it was refreshing. I think, the last book that I read, and this is going to sound so pathetic, the last books were the Poldark books. I haven't had time to read a whole lot of non-business related books over the course of the last several years. And, the Poldark books, they're pretty damn meaty. And there's a
by
lot.
Comparison, definitely.
Yeah. In comparison to these, it takes some real focus and concentration to get through those. But I find that enjoyable in an entirely different way than I do this genre. This was really a pleasant experience. And I can't wait to get to the part where we talk about the things that weren't in the show. Because there's a whole
I remember
lot.
Talking to you about the books while we were doing our podcast for season 1, and I kept trying to explain to you it's really, really freaking different, and you were like, yeah, okay, how different can it be? And now that you've
I'm like, all right, yeah,
now you've read it, do you understand?
I don't really get it, and it's gonna be it's gonna be pretty jaw-dropping when you finally get in and read it. But there is a laundry list of things that weren't in the books that wound up in the show. And I think that demonstrates, and it's funny, coming from an individual that, was pretty hard on the adaptations of the Poldark books. I think that's a delicate way of putting it. But, the fact that they omitted so many things out of the series, and put in things, it turned out that it worked really, really well. I think the movie or the show adaptation, they did a really good job on adapting this book for a miniseries.
One thing I think I don't really enjoy about the novel is the timeline. It's incredibly rushed.
Yeah.
This complaint I have of all of her books, to be honest. It's like there's a rush to the altar. They know each other for like 2 days, get married, and then there's almost like a 3-month period of time in like the last chapter of the novel.
Oh, jeez.
That's just strange pacing. I understand why she has to do it, but it's just like, girl,
Slow down.
Slow down. There's a lot to take in. A lot happens.
It's like you're not trying to fit this into a 100-page pulp fiction book. You just chill, baby. Chill.
So, favorite scenes. You got any?
I think the scene where they are telling Anthony about the scheme that they're doing, I thought that was absolutely hysterical. And that would have been so much fun to see with those actors. It would have been so much fun to see that on screen, because it's just so comical.
I loved the wedding scene where Gregory's having his little sneezing fit. And then Daphne and Simon can't help but start laughing because he's sneezing for like the 6th time. Yes. And it's just so sweet. And then Hyacinth's little line about them spending their life laughing together. I was like, this is so wholesome. I love this little family. It's so cute. I mean, Hyacinth in general.
Yes, Hyacinth basically stole my heart. She just stole it.
As she should.
The scene where Simon is having dinner with them for the first time, and she's basically peppering him with questions, and
she's flirting with him. It's fine.
And at the end of it, she says, "Well, if you don't marry Daphne, I would very much appreciate it if you would wait for me."
So cute.
It was like, oh my God, how could you not fall in love with that little girl? Oh,
you're gonna adore her book. She's just a queen. Oh. I love her.
Oh God.
I also love that there's that mirroring of the first chapter and the epilogue where Simon's sort of mimicking Violet. Yes. Like he's gone full circle. And he went from being like this outsider who like didn't care about Lady Whistledown, and now he like reads Lady Whistledown religiously and complains, and he's just like turned into Violet. And Daphne has basically married her mother, and I find that just perfect.
Oh God, yeah, it is. I hope that y'all give these books a try, because it's really, really fun. And I think given the last 2.5 years where, we've been living in shit, basically. Yeah. This is a book that will be lighthearted, joyful read, especially if you've seen the show and you have that information, that background in your head while you're reading it. It's just lovely.
Speaking of favorite quote, my favorite quote from the book is really random. I was like, this made me laugh for some reason, and I was like, this is like the essence of why I like this relationship in this novel. So it's from chapter, I've highlighted it in my Kindle. It's chapter 21, I think on page 300 and something. And Simon, she yelped. He arched one brow. Yes? What are you doing? Trying to seduce you? Am I succeeding? Her face coloured. Probably, she mumbled. Oh, probably? Damn, I must be losing my touch.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just like, the banter is so good. They're so lighthearted. And this is right after they've had the most dramatic ass reconciliation. And they've just like snapped right back into just being cute with each other. Horny, but still cute.
Yes. It's hard for me to say. I would say probably the line that Hyacinth says about I would very much appreciate you waiting for me, because it's such a you're gonna be that girl.
Yes.
Kind of.
But can't you tell that from the show? Like,
yeah.
I think the actress they chose is just so perfect. She's so Hyacinth. You're like, she is the boss and she's in charge.
Yes. And the fact that her mother is keenly aware of all of the sneaky pea flinging that's going on. She's just choosing to ignore it.
Yeah. And I love that Hyacinth is the one that's flinging the peas and not Gregory.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Of course she is. Queen Hyacinth. Speaking of the show, here is the list I have compiled of the most major differences I noticed between the show and books. It sort of just ended up being a plot summary towards the end because the back half of the season is so incredibly different. But here's the list, people, and it's a long one. And I didn't even mention the fact that all of the races of the characters have changed, because isn't that obvious? You know.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, so Simon was not raised by Lady Danbury, but by Nurse Hopkins, who seems like a nice lady. She was nice. Daphne, not a debutante. She's been out for 2 seasons in Society and considered one of the boys, which is crazy.
Isn't that relatable?
Relatable queen, Daphne Bridgerton.
Yes.
Daphne had 4 proposals, but Anthony has allowed her to reject them all because Anthony is normal and nice in this book.
Yeah,
including
he's not a lunatic. Oh my god.
Yes. Yes. This is my main complaint anyway. He also rejected Nigel versus the show, where he insists she just marries the first man that asks her because he's like real desperate. He's like, please make this problem go away.
Yes, because I need to get back. I need to get back to my opera singer, so I don't want to think about this anymore. So, God. Let's see. Colin has been traveling on the continent when the book starts and returns to London from Amsterdam. And in the show, he is younger and has yet to get into all of his travels. Daphne and Simon meet at Lady Danbury's ball after Daphne punches out Nigel, who is drunkenly attempting to convince her to marry her and be rather
he wants
forceful
to marry
about it.
Laffy. He's not marrying
Yes, Laffy.
He's marrying Laffy.
Laffy, I love you, Laffy. Oh, God. Simon is attracted to her before he realizes that she is Anthony's sister. And I mean, honestly, in the book, it was like he was gonna pounce. He was gonna pounce.
He was.
Yeah. And as soon
he
as
was obsessed. He was horny.
And as soon as he finds out, it's like comically brakes skidding, the sound of brakes skidding, record needle going across the record, the whole thing. It's pretty hilarious.
Good moment.
Yeah, it is. Simon's reason for the ruse makes much more sense in the book. On his return to London, he realizes his friends have all gotten married, and he will be attending social events at their wife's invitation. So Daphne's presence as a decoy actually benefits him. And the ruse...
I was just going to say, that makes so much more sense. In the show, you're like, why are you at these parties? What's up, mate? I had forgotten about this in the books, and I was like, yeah, that makes total sense.
And the ruse was incepted on the night that they met.
Anthony is in on this ruse. Key change here. He actually knows what's going on, and nobody's lying to him. They feel like not explaining it just antagonizes him unnecessarily. So, brilliant.
Just go ahead and let him know.
It just makes more sense, doesn't it? There's no Queen Charlotte, and therefore no Prince Friedrich storyline.
Yeah.
Goodbye, German prince. At Lady Trowbridge's ball, I don't know how we pronounce that anymore, guys. Daphne wanders into the garden with Simon, fully intending to hook up with him.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony catches said hookup with Simon about to suck on Daphne's nipple, which is 1,000 times worse than in the series because no one wants their brother seeing their boobs.
Yeah.
She had
oh my God.
halted out. It was just no. It was no. Understandably upset, Anthony.
Yes. The beatdown was spectacular.
Oh, it was great.
He got a punch from both Anthony and Daphne.
So satisfying.
Yes.
One thing they didn't change was the amount of times he gets punched. It's a lot, people. They got a special license in the books with no problem because he's a freaking duke and he can get anything he wants. The wedding is really cute and happy and no one looks sad.
Yeah, Simon does not look like he's marching up to a firing squad. Let's see. Daphne tells Simon that her mother explained nothing about the marital act, as Violet called it, and Simon is like, I love this for me, okay?
He's literally thinking, well, this is convenient.
I'll be your blanket was the sexy line of the book, and it's really bad.
So bad.
They do say the phrase he burned for her in a couple of places in the book, but it's never said
it's
out
not
loud.
Dialogue. It's not
it's
dialogue,
not dialogue,
so it doesn't count.
They say, I'll be your blanket.
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
Julia.
When they get to the estate, there's no getting to know the villagers storyline because, we don't care about peasants. Unlike the show, Mrs. Coulson takes to Daphne straight away, and she immediately starts talking to her about seed, which is like, okay, that's a weird one to start off with. But talking to her about seed, it takes a while for Daphne to work out what she means, but as soon as she does, she immediately confronts Simon. Simon immediately explains why he doesn't want children. They argue about it for 2 days, and then Simon goes and gets shit-faced drunk. I mean, ugly drunk. Beaten up by sailors and the whole 9 yards.
No, he beat up the sailor. He and everyone else was like, "Oh man, let's stay away from him. That guy is angry."
Oh God,
choices were made.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Awkward. So drunk Simon gets into bed with Daphne, and when they wake up a few hours later, Daphne explicitly thinks about taking advantage of the power she has over her vulnerable husband. Eek. The rest of the scene is just the same assault from the show. And then afterwards, when they argue, Simon is so upset he starts stammering again, but like a lot more stammering than we ever got in the show. Unlike the show, Simon then writes Daphne a note that he's just gonna be leaving for a while, one of his estates, and he stays gone for 3 whole months. Excellent marriage. Daphne is like, well, fuck this, and she travels to London alone, where she begins to suspect she is pregnant. After a good 2 months goes past, she finally sends Simon a note via a very pissed off Anthony, who's like, I'm gonna go beat him up again.
You're hurting my sister? Time for your face to get fucked up. Yes. Better pray I don't break your nose. After Simon gets yelled at by Anthony, he reads the note and immediately runs back to London to make up with Daphne. He catches up with Daphne as she falls off her horse. He's horrified and comes to rescue her. She breaks down and admits she was wrong about being pregnant. Simon confesses he's changed his mind. Kissy kissy makeup.
I think that's the technical term, right? Kissy kissy makeup.
Kissy kissy makeup. In the epilogue, they have 3 girls. Amelia,
I wanted to say Belinda, and I just mangled that.
I don't know what it, and Caroline, before their son is born. So, in conclusion, no opera singers, orgies, Marina, remember her?
I'd rather not.
Boxing, or Lady Whistledown sleuthing. Also, no Mr. Featherington. He already dead.
Yeah.
So we don't even have that whole mess of a storyline to deal with either.
I wouldn't even call that a storyline. That was like 30 seconds of the episode, wasn't it? He walks into a room and then it's like, he's dead, and then Portia cries.
Yes. Oh, Lord.
Anyway.
So yeah, all those things are missing, and wasn't it a blessed relief? Like I said, they did a great job at adapting the storyline, but then they threw in all of this craziness. And, and I don't know if since I haven't read the books, I don't know if any of it was a setup for, coming seasons.
Most of it was, only if you squint.
Uh-huh. I mean, was Anthony such a freaking idiot in season 1 so that he can be all serious about this whole finding a wife thing in season 2? I don't know.
I don't really see how they're related, though. Anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have some processes to get through. Okay. What was the most surprising change for you?
I think it was the fact that Lady Danbury was not as close to Simon in the books as she was in the movies. I mean, she was, as described, always very kind to him as a boy. But, in the film, you think that, Lady Danbury was related to Simon's mother, like a sister or an aunt or something like that. And that's why she is, so close and insistent on bringing him up. And so I think that was more of a surprise that she was not as close to Simon as she was in the show.
So I don't know if it's obvious in the books yet, but Lady Danbury is significantly older in the books than she's portrayed on screen.
Okay.
She is... Okay, so I don't know how old she is, but one of the love interests of one of the kids is her grandson. So he's... And in the show, you think she's more like around Violet's age. They seem sort of like in the same generation. But she would be like Violet's mother's age in the books. Mm-hmm. So that was like an interesting choice. I remember when they cast Adjoa, I was like, wow, she's real young. And she looks still so young. So young that you're like, are you 30? What's going on? Why are you his mother figure? You look like you could be his young aunt. Like, what's going on? It's not something I dislike because I think she's such an amazing actress that it just sort of works on screen. But I do sort of miss the sort of cranky old lady aspect because I relate.
They tried to make her a little bit cranky, but it's not nowhere near what it would be if she was, a really old lady. The humps that she made would have been and sounded much more different than if we had show Lady Danbury saying humph.
I kind of picture someone a bit like Maggie Smith in Downton Abbey, like that kind of out of touch with so incredibly out of touch with the youth, but still also hilariously right all of the time.
Oh God, that would be awesome.
Were there aspects of the book you prefer from the show?
The fact that we had so much more dancing scenes. They dance in the book, but it's absolutely not featured. It's mentioned, it's referenced, that kind of thing. But the scenes where the two of them are dancing, that was just lovely. But I digress. Scenes that I wish had stayed in the show. I honestly think that the little quip, I'm stuck on the little quip that Hyacinth said, that would have been adorable at that first dinner. I mean, the first dinner was really just so much fun.
They kept
the
a lot
show,
of that in
but-
the show, though. That was one of the few scenes that I remember being like, "Oh, this is from the book," and there's peas being flung. The whole family's there.
Yes, but yeah, I would have loved to have seen Hyacinth say something like that, and Daphne going, "Hyacinth," that kind of thing. That would have been hilarious. But yeah,
I have a huge list. Please bear with me.
Do go on.
So I think the character of Simon is a lot better adapted or developed in the book. When you do a side-by-side comparison, you can see how much context is missing, like from the show's depiction of his childhood, especially surrounding his stutter. I also think that the whole bit with his father, like after he goes to Oxford and he's graduated and he comes back to London and his father has suddenly done a 180 and in public he's acting like he's a proud father. I think that's really important and it's completely missing from the show. I think that's also like re-traumatizing him in a way because
absolutely.
And I think it really explains his desire to not want to fulfill his role as the Duke. I think he suddenly, like, a switch has gone on and he's like, well, I'm not going to be the Duke you want me to be. And with that scene missing, it's just the show doesn't really explain. It doesn't explain why he's self-sabotaging like that. The audience, like a lot of people that I've spoken to, just completely blew off his decision making, and they were just like, oh, he's just being selfish or dumb, or like, why doesn't he just have children? And I think that you'd be more sympathetic to his thought process if you were there in the moment with him when he's making those choices. And I also think that the choice of having him stuttering in all those scenes with Daphne in like really emotional moments is really powerful. I wish they had kept those moments in, because so much of his struggle in the books is about his stutter and him not wanting his children to grow up and also have this stutter, and they talk about that and like why he might not want to have children, because he's scared that they will end up like him and he doesn't want his children to go through the same childhood he had and like struggle to find their voice. And I think that's so powerful and moving, and it's completely absent. Instead, we got some bullshit boxing storyline, so okay. I also think, even outside of all that trauma, Simon's much more well-rounded in the novel. Like, he has this relationship with Lady Danbury, and he dances with Penelope when no one else will, and he's just very broody and dark in the show, and there are more layers to this man. He like cares that his friends have married and he wants to go to their social events because he doesn't want to upset people. I feel like in the show he would just be like, fuck this, I'm not going. He's like, bye, I don't have any friends, I'm leaving. And it doesn't really make much sense that he sticks around. Like, I guess he's attracted to Daphne, but there's no reason for him to go to all these parties. And I think it just, I feel like I know Simon better. And then that makes the relationship better for me, because it's like two well-rounded people meeting and like finding their match. I did really like the fact that the two of them almost recognize, straight off the bat that they are very good friends. That there is a genuine friendship that is developing. It's like, okay, now I get why Simon says what he says to the Queen on the show. It's completely missing in the show, but it's a good speech.
Yeah, and you understand now that it truly was a friendship that both of them acknowledge very early on in their ruse. Almost from the first time they're
together.
Alone with one another. You know, they're the banter that they have is just wonderful, and it's the kind of thing that you only have with someone that you are connected with at a really deep level, and it was great. It was great. I'd have to say that the friendship between the two of them, prior to their getting married, was lovely to watch.
I think one thing the best moments of the show for me were when they were being they were giggling in ballrooms together and they were being really cutesy. The show leans too heavily in on the angst of it later on. I think to make a romance work, and Julia really understands this, you need to feel like it's fun and it's light and you're enjoying watching two people be together, and it's not all just like crying and like, why can't we be together with our misunderstandings? Like, you have to feel like it's worth fighting for, and they started to develop them, and then I feel like as soon as they hooked up in that garden, it was like downhill from there in terms of their communication. In the books, even when they're fighting, I feel like they're making really valid points and they're communicating with each other and they're talking it through. There's no talking at all in the series. They just stare at each other and then get hurt. You know? I suppose because if you allow people to talk in a TV show, they have to talk to like a conclusion, but it's annoying.
Yeah.
Was there anything you think didn't really work very well in the books? In the book? Singular.
I think if I have a complaint about romance novels in general, it's how quickly the pair reconcile after the thing that happens that splits them up. Towards the end, it's like the reconciliation it happens so fast and it's so instantaneous, and then it's the end. And that's the trope, or part of the trope. And this was really no different. I do think that the way that they handled it in the show was that I appreciated. I appreciated how they managed it in the show. It didn't feel
the pacing of it is just better, isn't it? Because it's not over and done with in like one episode. It's several episodes of hurt, which is better. I think the show is much more aware that Violet let her daughter down in that scene where she's trying to explain the birds and the bees to Daphne.
Yes.
I mean, in the novel, it just comes off as like this funny scene. Isn't it funny that her mother is setting her up for a terrible marriage? And it's like, no, this is terrible. She's ruined her daughter's marriage. In general, I think the show is a lot more plugged into the social structures and how they impact on these characters' choices and decisions, and how the patriarchy is like screwing up Violet and then she's screwing up her daughter. I think they're just plugged into that a lot more than Julia would be. Well, Julia would. I mean, it's a romance novel. You don't want to be like preached out about the patriarchy when you're reading a romance novel. But I think injecting that into this story is important, and it just works better when you're watching the show. Yeah, agreed. And also just the whole assault in general feels different. I think just having it in the context of a romance novel and then having the assault happen is really jarring when you read it. It's just horrible. It feels really incongruous to the tone of the rest of the book, and then you're like, oh, there's this. And there's something about reading a romance novel, you know the two people are going to end up together at the end. Like, you've already bought into this relationship, and you know they're gonna resolve the rape.
Yeah.
When you're watching it on the TV, like, there's a actual possibility they might not end up together. You know, this might have ended that relationship. So I think it works better just because of the context. Does that make sense? Yeah. I feel like I'm just speaking nonsense sometimes.
No, that does make sense. You know, in the book, it's a horrible scene, and really tragic when, you know, Simon discovers what happened, and he just basically melts down, and not in an angry way, but it is clearly a trauma, and you recognize it as a trauma. In the show, there's none of that. There's Simon being pissed off that Daphne's done this, and you know, like, I trusted you, blah 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 blah. But in the book, this is very clearly a trauma. You know, he has a trauma response, and it's horrible. It's horrible to see. That would have been pretty amazing to see in the show, quite frankly.
I mean, when you think about the context of when this was written, and she was writing this in 1999, so the fact that you know, yes, she wrote it, and I don't think she was fully aware of how people would read it as rape. Like 20 years later, we're all much more knowledgeable about it. But I still have to give her some props, because she tries to handle the situation and talk about it. And the show did so much work trying to just ignore it and just like sort of talk around the subject, where Daphne and Simon actually talk about it in the novel. And I don't love how she wrote that conversation, because I think there's a little bit of victim blaming, and Simon makes some excuses that I'm not really comfortable with, but I never felt like it wasn't dealt with. You know, I felt like these two people solved that and decided to try and move past it with their lives together. In the show, I just felt like it was not talked about. It was just nothing happened. And I think part of that does a huge disservice to the character of Simon again, because it was a trauma he endured, and just like the other ones, it just gets brushed past. Like, he has to just get over it, and you never really see him actually doing the work to move past all of these traumas. He just magically goes, you know what, I've decided I'm going to be a father, and it doesn't it's just weird. Like, the more I know I enjoyed the show, but the more I think about how they wrote his character, I'm just so disappointed, because he's so well rounded in the book.
Yeah, there were opportunities that were missed to make Simon multidimensional.
Exactly. And I think Reggae would have done a lot of work. A lot of good work. But instead he was licking spoons. We got that instead.
Yeah, he's like, his thing was, I must be hot.
But you can be hot and tortured.
Yes.
We love a hot, tortured guy.
Yes, indeed.
I feel like
we must fix him.
I feel like Simon got all the hot, and then Anthony got all of the tortured, and then it was like, these two characters can't have more than one facet.
Oh, God.
One thing I did want to mention is, like, not to make excuses for this book, but I grew up reading some really questionable 90s romance novels that had some really gross, quote-unquote, forced seduction scenes. And I think Daphne's behaviour in that scene exists within the parameters of the genre. Not like the world we live in today. We have, like, much more of a sense of issues around consent. And I don't want to be, like, an apologist for it, but there's a lot of forced seductions with male heroes and they get away with so much shit from people. I feel like sometimes, especially in fandom discourse, Daphne gets a lot of shit. I mean, yes, she commits a rape. So again, not an excuse. She's still a rapist. But within the context of the genre, it's not really that bad. I can't believe I said that out loud.
No.
But I've read so much worse. And people still love and adore those heroes. But Daphne's like all of her flaws and all of her issues. And I think she gets slated for it while the men get praised. I think that's also something we have to take into consideration here. Oh God, I've read so many bad romance novels and it's just all coming back to me.
Oh God,
we've been talking for nearly an hour and I've still got more to cover. Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so this I've put under miscellaneous facts because it didn't really fit in with the rest of the conversation. So let's talk about the fact that there is a fourth Featherington daughter. Dun, dun, dun!
I know.
Felicity, who is only 10 in 1813. Was this like brand new information?
Yes. It was like, wait, what? The way that they were described in the book was kind of hilarious. You know,
Isn't it just like they are in the show, though?
Yeah, just this kind of profusion of lace and bold colors and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And one thing, there's like an animosity between Violet and Lady Featherington that we don't really... I would say competitive energy, not so much animosity. Okay. Because they have this vibe where they still socially interact, and it's like that competitive mum energy where they'll be like, well, my daughter went to Harvard, well, mine married a doctor. They're friends just so they can brag, you know. Yeah but it seemed it seemed cooler than and I don't mean in a hip kind of way, but it just seemed cooler than it was depicted in the show. But anyway.
Well, I feel like they hated each other in the show because, you know, that first look across the... Yes,
across the road.
The road.
Yeah.
Where they like sort of fake nodded each other. They're
Where, you know, all of the girls
clearly can't stand the family when she's over there for dinner. She's just like...
Yes.
Oh... So fake.
Oh, Violet, you are so bad. Oh, God. But anyhow.
Violet.
Yeah.
So in chapter 6, there's a reference to a Mr. Crane that when I was reading, I was like, oh shit, he's in the first book? What the fuck, Julia? So that has to be Philip Crane, future Sir Philip Crane. His brother was presumably still alive and called Sir Crane, right? I was just like, did you catch this? Nobody talks about this, and it freaked me out. I was like, did you plan this? What's going on? Does she only have like a certain amount of names that she reuses it? I just freaked the fuck out.
Oh my God.
So this is not the first appearance of Lady Danbury in a Julia Quinn novel. The character first showed up in How to Marry a Marquis. I've read that book, but I cannot remember anything about it, which was published the year before this one was published, so 1999. Lady Danbury appears in every Bridgerton novel, a few of the spin-offs, and just in random other books that Julia has written since. I hope that she gets like a whole prequel series because I'm just fascinated by her.
Oh.
Long may she reign over us with her sass and her cane.
Yes.
Before we left off, I thought I would mention that on Sunday, I went to a Bridgerton event at the Kiln Theatre. It was hosted by the very adorable Jim Carter of Bessie's Dad fame. I suppose if you're a normal person, you would think of him as the butler from Downton Abbey.
Yes.
He's magical in person.
Oh.
And he kept cracking Nicola up. She was sat next to him and he would make a dad joke, and Nicola just halfway through they had to stop because Nicola was laughing so much, just like crying, laughing to herself.
Oh my goodness.
So in attendance was Adjoa, Golda, Ruth, Nicola, Bessie of course, and Martins and Luke Thompson. They were all there.
Oh.
They were so neat. Sweet, funny. They talked so passionately and intelligently about the show. They kept trying to give us tiny hints about season 2, but then Jim Carter would be like, "No, you cannot. Netflix have written me several emails. Please do not mention," like the sheer panic that would overcome him whenever somebody asked a question about season 2. So funny.
My gosh.
If you want to see what that was like, head on over to our In the Books Instagram. I documented my night as best I could. I obviously couldn't film the damn thing because Jim Carter was standing in front of me being like, "You don't need to film it. Everybody turn your phones off. It's fine."
Like, all right, bye.
I thought I'd listen to Carson, okay? He's right there. Yes. I can't disobey him. That
would
fun.
Be rude. It would be rude. Oh my gosh! Oh, how fun is that? I'm slightly envious, but you know,
maybe one day.
Yeah.
You can go. You take the opportunity. Go out and stalk Julia Quinn's house. Knock on her door.
Oh, woman! You're gonna get me arrested.
Okay, we do not encourage that sort of behavior here on.
No, we do not. But, you know, if she ever does like a book event or something like that, I'm definitely going to go. And
oh, for sure. I think she does occasionally pre-pandemic.
Yeah, have her sign a book. But, and I'll get a picture because, you know, that's what you do. Okay, folks. Well, we have reached the end of this special book club episode. And the next time you hear from us, season 2 will be upon us. Oh my God, no, I can't. It's finally here. So, really super excited about it. One thing to note, we are going to watch and podcast about the show 1 episode a week. So, Rita and I have agreed not to binge the show as soon as it is released. And
just hearing
struggle,
you say that out loud gave me anxiety.
I know. Like, the struggle is real, people. So on Tuesday, 29th of March, look out for our podcast on 201. And if you want to talk to us, please remember to keep it spoiler free, because we don't want, we want to come at this whole thing fresh. Because I think it'll be a really fun experience to do that.
Do you think that, or do you think it will make me cry? Because sometimes I think it will.
Every week, we're going to get to the point where, the end credit music comes on. Dum, 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 and
trying to shut it off before it...
Yeah, that little next episode thing is going to be like speeding across the screen, and we will have to go back.
Netflix, if you are listening, can you make the end credits thing last a little longer? Because it's literally within 10 seconds, and I'm sprinting across the room. I'm not fit enough for this shit. I'm like trying to relax. And then, I can't even watch 1 second because that will be a spoiler.
Exactly.
Please, Netflix, sort it out. Yeah.
Exactly. Just chill out the next episode thing. Just a few more seconds. Help a sister out. Anyway, we will be bringing back our inbox section. So please email us at inthebooksnetwork@gmail.com. If you want to be read out on the show, or you could go to our Tumblr, and you can message us anonymously. It's really up to you. We are available on all your social medias at In the Books Network. And if you like our podcast, please tell your friends and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you are getting your podcasts. It really helps us out. Thank you so much for joining, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.